Hello out there, all you boppers. Got a great show lined up for you today. As usual, if you'd like to support this channel, there are PayPal and Patreon links in the info box below. We have a new little game today. It's called Presentation on Skype Game. So this is going to be an audio potpourri. How's it going out there, Ballbusters?
Well, thank you for having us. It's good to be on your channel. Nice to be functional.
Yes, great to be gathering again with the guys.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. Nice to be here. Not sure what we've got tonight. I'm told it's a Shamalama Gamma Panda Ding Dong. Not sure what that is, but I'm looking forward to it.
Correct. It's a Shamalama Gamma Gem Panda Ding Dong.
No, it's Shamalama Gamma Panda Ding Dong, man. It's Otis Day and the Nights.
Of course. How could we have ever mistaken it for anything else?
For all you Animal House aficionados out there, you know what I'm talking about. It's just Shamalama Gamma Panda Ding Dong.
It's not boom shakalaka boom shakalaka.
No, that's Woodstock. That is Sly and the Family Stone. So get your music right.
Episode 12, season 2.
Yeah. So it's going to be a challenge today. What we're going to do out there, boppers, is we're going to conduct this presentation on Skype today. After the presentation's over, we're then going to dogpile into Discord Ballbusters VC for any comments and questions and queries. We're doing that due to technical hurdles with the audio. So hopefully this won't go all that bad. How's everyone sounding out there?
Sound terrible. Can you turn yourself down a bit? Turn yourself down because you're triggering our line with the amount of feedback that you're forcing yourself. Yeah, turn your mic down about 5 dB.
All right,
anyway,
how about that?
We're great. We're coming to you today from Skype so that the people on the Ballbusters panel can actually hear the presentation, because typically we flick back and forth from the live stream to the Discord server because it doesn't have that facility. But a lot of this is going to be interactive today. Well, to a degree, we want the panel to actually hear what's being said by the people we're discussing, in this case, Gem Panda. So a lot of what's being heard can actually be heard by us on the show, although you may not be aware of that on the other Ballbusters shows that we've done with presentations that are played back and recorded prior to the show. But there we go. Just so you know, that's why you might hear some of us talking over each other and a little bit slightly sketchy audio on the show. It's just because we're on Skype. But we will move across for the public part of the show to Discord later on after the presentation, just so you're all aware.
So how are we doing? How's that sound? Better?
But we'll soldier on.
We're going to soldier on. All right, well, let's get going. I just want to give everyone a flavor of what's going to happen today. Go ahead.
Oh, was that feedback?
Or
you're seeing the line dance on Skype because you're causing it to feedback. Yeah, you just need to turn your own line down quite a lot, like in the red. There we go. A bit more. There we go. Perfect.
Yeah, can everyone hear me out there?
Perfect.
Yep.
Perfect.
Chopping that.
All right, okay. Let's see how this works. Yeah, you can see that. Yeah, that's too funny because I'm sharing my screen. I was wondering, do you got telepathic powers and stuff?
It's Nathan. It's to do with sound, and it's Nathan. So he's gonna. I was wondering at first till I saw you moving on screen. How did he know? Just turn. But,
yeah, right there. Stop. All right, so I think this is all good to go right here. Let me minimize that. Yeah. So like I said, let me give you a flavor of who we're discussing here today. So let's just try 3 of them. Here 'tis. 4 June 2020. Gem Panda, Mr. Bird's Humping Natural Experiment, and Knowledge is Special Belief, now with his current thesis defense.
Nobody has ever determined the shape or size of the Earth by making an observation of the horizon. We've never done that. We've never, ever, ever, ever done that.
What in the world? Absolutely priceless. Ladies and gentlemen, this bozo's been out here for 5 years defending the disheveled ball-tard spinning space monkey religion and doesn't even know where or how his fairy tale radius came to be. You can't make this shit up, folks. Like I always say, just let them open up their incoherent pie holes and they'll do your work for you.
Nathan is telling you that because of the black swan, we can't know the radius of the Earth, when we have never, ever, ever determined the radius of the Earth by measuring the distance to the horizon. Never. No one has ever done that, ever, in the history of humanity.
Al-Biruni. Al-Biruni. Al-Biruni.
Established where?
Al-Biruni. Al-Biruni. Al-Biruni.
Show where that's established.
Al-Biruni. Al-Biruni. Al-Biruni.
You're not talking about a water level. You're talking about measuring the radius of the Earth by looking at the horizon. Show where that is established in any way.
Al-Biruni. Al-Biruni. Al-Biruni.
I think
it was never, ever, ever, ever determined by observing the horizon.
Al-Biruni. Al-Biruni. Al-Biruni.
That's take number 1. You ready for take? You ready for take 2?
I was thinking, will it get tired halfway through? And then I started giggling more. So no, take two.
Let's go with take 2.
The only way you could actually substantiate or reverse engineer the circumference, if you don't have all of it, it's to have the radius value and then to fill in the gaps objectively. That's basic geometry.
That's not true, is it? If you've got,
let me know I want to address Gem when you're done.
If you can extrapolate a radius from a number of circumference measurements, then you can have a circumference.
Yeah? What about that one?
Yeah. What the hell? If I beg the question, then I've got my answer. Well, that's profound.
So if he could extrapolate a radius from the number of circumferences, he can get a circumference?
Yeah, pretty much. that checks out then.
One question. Do you think he's ever heard of Al-Biruni?
I'm sorry.
There's a differential, John, between the two bits there. The Al-Biruni one you can put down to just not knowing. Whereas the other one is just 100% just bullshittery, isn't it? It's making stuff, or just making a statement and hoping people will think it's true. We can have a radius because, like, what happens if you got a leak in the ISS? Well, then you've got a leak. You know what I mean? It's one of those statements that you hope you look past, but actually, if you analyse, shows not just deception. I said that the first one I think just shows ignorance of knowledge of where you got your R value from, fundamentally. But the latter one's a bit dishonest.
You think it's a bit troubling? I'd like to see somebody extrapolate a radius from a number of different circumferences to get a circumference value. I'd like to see somebody do that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. What does that even mean? The fundamentally then, where you got, where do you get your circumference? What's your methodology of deriving your circumference? I'm assuming he said that to overflux the fact that the way you derive it is optically. You get me? So, but if we turn it around and change the words and ask the person you're then arguing with to automatically assume that, oh, in other ways you've derived it and you've got 3 ways of deriving it, then it's fine. It's stated with, well, you'll describe it best. I'm not sure exactly, but you know what I mean? You're making the person accept your analogy.
That's batshit insane. I'm sorry. We still got take 3, so let's get through take 3 before we get into the presentation, all right?
Oh, sure.
Here we go.
It's frustrating, isn't it?
Here we go. Mr. Bird's Humping Natural Experiment, Jeremy Gimp Panda, 19 July 2020.
Well, could we make a conclusion? Let's say we gathered a set of data, okay, and our data says that I don't know. I hate to say it.
Say it.
Our data says that bluebirds usually lay 3 eggs in April.
Yep. Thanks again, Numpty.
And we do our field study and we gather this data and we find that, almost all of the bluebirds that we see mating lay 3 eggs and they lay them in April.
Wait a second. Now it's a field study? Not a natural experiment birds humping proofsies? Jeremy, from your alma mater wiki, field studies. However, like natural experiments, field experiments suffer from the possibility of contamination. Experimental conditions can be controlled with more precision and certainty in the lab. Yet some phenomena, for example, voter turnout in an election, cannot be easily studied in a lab. So, we got birds humping field experiments right beside voter turnout in election. Sounds like science to me. Goodness, you're a numpty dipshit.
Can we then conclude? We make a conclusion that usually bluebirds lay 3 eggs in April.
What's this? Shit, hold on.
Point if they're not causing
my point is you can't see everything,
so there's no point to include it as a variable. It's not causing anything.
So if you can't see it, it doesn't exist.
No, if you can't see it, it's not giving you
2 things exist that you can't see.
Yes, that's not the point.
Right. Could such a thing affect the result of an experiment?
No. How can it?
So things can only affect an experiment if they can be seen, is what you're saying now.
That's what the observation is about. Yeah, you're observing a phenomena and that you want to test it.
So even if it's being affected by something that you can't see,
like what?
So for instance, if you put some water in a test tube and next to it you put something that emits microwaves and the water boils, you have no way of determining why that water boiled.
A real mystery. I'll take a stab in the dark, Adder. How about The microwave emitter. Ya numpty. There you go. That's the tone.
Wow.
How?
Maybe it's worth covering what makes an independent variable an independent variable. You gave me these three things, but it's worth covering them, right? So number one, it's got to be real. Number two, it's, as mentioned, your independent variable, the thing you think is causing the effect that you're trying to study. Number three, it must be capable of being varied and manipulated by you, the researcher. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean visible, it means manipulatable by you, the researcher. So it must be real. So no gravity or things that we can't see or touch or manipulate. No, they're not independent variables. Number two, it's your presumed cause. And number three, you've got to be able to vary it. That's it.
I have a question about Jam Panda, because I usually don't spend or waste my time listening to that guy. Because every time he speaks, he's always just blabbering on. Now, you apparently do have the patience to kind of keep track. So, has he ever proven to have any kind of consistency in his train of thinking? Because it just seems like he's literally just improvisingly blabbering his way through, missing every good point every time. Like, Rumpus has a consistency to the way how he tries to fool everyone. Jam Panda, I don't know what he does. Like, does he just permanently live in Fantasyland, or is there actually a consistency to his train of thinking?
Oh, you haven't heard anything yet. I mean, I was trying to think what this... Go ahead.
No, it was actually a serious question to you, not just a rhetorical question.
I would say the first quote answers you. He'll argue a point, but then he's going to lose the point. You get statements like that first statement. No one ever has used, horizon to measure Earth. You'll get statements like that are hard to defend because you're just so aghast. Do you know what I mean? But and then kicking off is Jeremy's kind of playbook.
Right.
Really getting ragey. Yeah. But
it's almost like he's trying to gaslight his way out of it. Like he's made a complete ass of himself, and then he just he lights up a candle and like, oh, look, it's all wrong. You don't understand. Oh, let's move on.
No, there is a method behind his madness as far as I can ascertain, right? The problem is that we've taken away their claim that they have empirical scientific validity when they use the magic word of science. Now that's been taken away from Jam Panda, and he wants to try and find some inroads to getting it back. So what he's doing is he's trying to compare and contrast things that have the word science in them, like natural experiments. Well, the word experiment in that natural experiment, which has a very clear definition, it's already been given once by QE, is something that he can leverage to make other claims made by pseudoscience practitioners in the fields of astronomy, for the sake of argument, have more leverage. That's all he's doing. He's trying to gain back the magic word of science. That's all he's doing.
Yep. And you haven't heard anything yet. And another bonus that everyone in his Discord server, that means hundreds of ballers, parrot his same nonsense. I love it because it's the best flat earth proof Jam Panda server. I love it. And we're gonna give a shout out to Chemo, because if Chemo didn't provide the material, I wouldn't have it. And like I said, you ain't seen anything yet. Any final conclusion before we begin?
Yeah, we'll have another look at your desk. There's so many things that needs to be done.
I got a short thing to say. I always thought that the name Gimp Panda was very fitting. Discovered very early on.
Let's stay on topic.
Yeah, we ready? Sound good?
No.
Well, outside of that, I was actually about to do the reverse, and it's to do with Nathan's comment there. Jem's right. He's defending an indefensible position, but if you listen to what Nathan just said there, he's realised that we've gone to natural science, and there's this quantification of the reason you use the term natural science is because science of itself implies scientific method. So these people are intellectually honest that are using it, and he realizes he wants to, that point has been made, the qualification of natural science. So he wants to, as Nathan says, get it back. So I'd give him a bit of credit. He's aware of where the flaws are, hence why he needs to pervert and twist the conversation to a false acceptance. I can hear myself whispering, John.
Right.
Yeah.
But that would imply, however, that he does actually know what he's doing then.
All right. You can hear yourself whispering. Listen up. If you are not speaking, go on mute. Arwen.
It's you causing it. I'm trying to tell you, it's you causing it. You need to be on mute in Skype. You've got your Skype line set up incorrectly, and it's picking up the line and putting it straight back through your system.
It's not.
You causing it.
I'm on mute.
Trust me. Trust me. I know what I'm talking about. It is.
He has the magic sound studio. He can hear everything.
It's nothing to do with the studio. Just now our Skype's wired. Anyway, just you need to mute in Skype when someone else is talking, John.
Yeah. I've been muted.
In Skype. Anyway, we don't want dead air while you're figuring out how to mute in Skype. Somehow your line is feeding back through Skype. So therefore, if your Skype line's open, it's going to feed back through. But yeah, it's exactly, just to get us back on track. Adam, yes, exactly. He may not even be aware of what he's doing and why he's doing it. He just knows that he has to take this empirical sounding word, science, that's applied often to his religious belief of a globe and give it validity again where it hasn't got any currently. It's just that simple. We've taken that away. More specifically, Quantum Eraser has taken it away by saying you were all taught this in 5th grade. And immediately, those words resonate with everybody who's been through high school. Like, oh, yeah, I remember this lesson. I remember doodling on the little sperms on page 47, putting moustaches on them, and not really listening to them telling you about cause and effect relationships. Nevertheless, we were all taught it. So we can immediately relate the fact that immediately after learning what the scientific method actually was, they started to tell you, probably in the same classroom, about a load of pseudoscience nonsense that had no scientific validity, is neither here nor there. They did tell you what the method was, and that is science, and nothing's going to change that. Unless he can convince himself that what he's got is still really science. So when they say, look at our science, I've made up a story for that light in the sky, you can say, see, because natural experiments are still experiments and science, aren't they? So therefore, pseudoscience astronomy is still science, isn't it? All this is.
With me, I had similar experience because I did get it in school and I was very enthusiastic about it. But then eventually they just moved on to other subjects and it was kind of presented like, yeah, these are the other scientific standards of proof. That's kind of how they slided it in there, and then I kind of, it got mixed up. So
we might come to that in the presentation. The many methods of science, right?
Right. Well, they didn't say it as such as methods, just the other ways to do it.
That's what they mean, though.
Yeah, we might get. We're not going to get to that specifically, but we ready to roll?
Indeed, do.
Yeah, go on mute, please. Thank you. Let's see what we got. Like I said, shout out to Chemo, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be close to it. Here we go.
That's funny. That's so funny, Twit, even though you're incapable of arguing any of the actual subject at all yourself. So can we just move on?
True. That's not true.
Yeah, it is actually very true. So, okay, Twit, do you want to debate about the Earth real quick? Since I'm so stupid and a science denier, then exactly what science do I deny, Twit?
I'm really sorry.
I just want to know what science I deny, Twit. Hey, name one piece of science I deny, Twit.
That the Earth isn't flat?
That's not science. That's a measurement question. Do you know the difference between measurement and science, Twit?
All of astronomy.
Astronomy's not a science. That's an observation. You just look in the sky and theoretically come up with mathematical equations to support postulations you can't substantiate. Next, what science do I deny, Twit? Twit, what science?
Do you have any citation to support the claim?
All right, what's the problem? Hello? Skype, you guys good?
Nope, didn't
Yeah,
hear a
you-
word of it.
Yeah, we didn't hear a word of
No.
it from muting Skype, but it's all good.
Didn't hear a word of it because I have to mute myself in Skype. So, we want to try
You
this
don't-
one more
yeah.
time?
No, because the audience has heard it now. You'll have to fill us in on the broad strokes and we'll figure it out from there. We did hear a bit of it.
Yep. So, that's outstanding. I love it the way it's going here today already. So, what Gem Panda said. Yeah, I
Sorry,
gotta love
should
this.
be muted.
I so enjoy it. So, but that's okay. But I've wrote them all down, right? You guys ain't gonna hear it, but they're gonna hear it out there. All right. So what he said is, Gem Panda or Gamma Panda, do you have any citations that support the fact that astronomy is not a science? Well, number one, you don't need citation to support simple deductions based on inherent facts, attributes, or traits, and the differences thereof between people, places, and things. For example, the statement amoeba is not a tennis racket will never be found in citation. It's objectively true based on the inherent characteristics, attributes, and traits of each compared. Duh! Right? However, in this particular case, yes, I do have citation support for that. From James Gunn, cited in Adrian Cho in the prestigious Science periodical, cosmology may look like a science, but it isn't a science. A basic tenet of science is that you can do repeatable experiments, and you can't do that in cosmology. Oh, by the way, James Gunn is an astronomy professor at Princeton, right? So, cosmology isn't a science because it lacks experiment. From Nick Strobel, professor of physical science at Bakersfield College, unlike other sciences, astronomy is entirely observational. You can't run experiments on things. You cannot manipulate the objects to see how they work. So, in astronomy, you don't have science. Why? Well, because you don't have experiments. In cosmology, you don't have science because you don't have experiments. Everyone getting this so far? Therefore, there's your citation. Astronomy is not a natural science. Follow? Any comment on that, guys, quickly?
Yeah, I didn't know that was the next part of the presentation, but yeah, exactly. It's wanting a non-experiment, natural experiment, let's call it, to be science. Well, it's not. Terming something with this word experiment in the colloquial sense doesn't make it.
Yeah, I think they have a problem. Ever since I started saying, well, citation support, you're going to need citation support, they don't understand that there's a context to this, right? So they just, got citation for that? Well, you got to think about what the context of the subject that you're discussing in before you ask for a citation. I don't know, dude.
One more thing. Just also, I like to make this mainly because I'm lazy. You don't actually need citations to make an argument. Your argument and its basis in logic can stand entirely on its own. Now, it can support your argument, but it doesn't make your argument. So there isn't actually any requirement to provide citations. I very rarely, if ever, do. Like, who's your citation? I don't need one. The logical consistency, not requiring of citations. And in this example, who's saying is an appeal to authority that they need to establish. They need you to show them that an authority is saying what you're saying because they don't trust you. That's all this boils down to.
All right. Anything else?
Can I also add as a bit of Can I also add it as a bit of advice? Like some of the ballers like to come on and give a citation when asked. Some of you guys might want to read your citations before you hand them over, because a lot of times your own citations debunk your own arguments. So you might
They're
want
not
to.
allowed to quote mine.
So yeah, you might want to brush up on that.
Is that a
So you
pro
just
tip?
scream, citation. Yeah, it's a pro tip for you guys.
I got 1 point to make just on those two things, and it kind of falls, John, to what they fall back to, which is some of the old, it's a bit like gravitas or gravity, the old definitions of science, and this is the trouble with English, where, all the different ways that we pronounce have different ways of saying them. Here, even in this, you'll see there's the 2 points where, look, point 2, cosmology may look like a science, but it isn't a science. You just scroll down a little bit. Unlike the other sciences, which is a statement to include cosmology in the sciences, it then precludes it. So it uses the term science. It's trying to differentiate. And I think these are the sort of nuances where when we talk in these little quotes here and like how they're used and how they'll use them to perceive it. But for me, when you read that, you can see that even if they're using the word sciences, they understand the differential between sciences with regards to application of the scientific method and the sciences that comes from history, where we would include something like cosmology, because the sciences in that sense relates to the gaining of knowledge. So historically, it has that link to it. But he, like I say, even here within these sentences, it's clear that there's a differential. The trouble is English doesn't have a word to differentiate, a bit like some other words we could use in these topics that have trouble because the lines have been blurred intentionally by them to allow things like the fact that this is one of the old school sciences, to give it the validity that it's a science. And my own sentence there, I demonstrate the point.
Yes, very good. There is a word that can distinguish what we are dealing with, because we are dealing with the physical and natural world, therefore very squarely fits into one category of science, and that would be natural science, the study of the physical and natural world. Now, that contextualizes everything with the vernacular. Experiments, hypotheses, it's all contextualized when you talk about natural science. And this category, this subject, is definitely natural science. So we're going to be needing experiments if you're going to claim science.
Yes, sir. All right, listen, I'm going to leave the Skype line open this time so you guys can hear it. Let's test this out. You guys ready to roll? Here we go.
Well, if all we're doing is looking into the sky and then we're theorizing what we think is going on, that isn't science, that's theoretics.
And that.
How's that?
Yep.
Good? Good to go? Thanks for all chiming in. Let me know it's good to go. Here we go. We're going to start over. There we go.
Well, if all we're doing is looking into the sky and then we're theorizing what we think is going on, that isn't science, that's theoretics.
And that also isn't astronomy. So do you have a citation?
Yes, that is astronomy. Astronomy is defined as theoretical physics.
So you're just asserting that astronomy.
So if I cited, are you going to admit you were wrong, or for the fifth time today, just act like it never happened?
Yes, I will.
Because you're a gamma, Mel.
I want a respectable source that says astronomy is not
theoretical physics.
No, you said
that's what I'm saying. It's theoretical physics, so that isn't science.
It may well be. It may well be, but you said it's not a science.
And I explained why. So are you disagreeing with the theoretical part? Yes or no?
I'm disagreeing with your explanation. So
no, you're asking me to go find a citation we know that doesn't exist from higher education that says astronomy isn't science because you're a 5-year-old. I said it isn't science because it's theoretical. Do you disagree or agree that it's theoretical?
Yes, I
disagree that it's theoretical only.
All they're doing is
exactly all of them agree that it's theoretical only.
Lots of sciences have a theoretical and a practical side.
So I deny science. No, I don't.
That's not
I don't have to blindly believe and accept theoretics of people looking in the sky. Try again, Twit. What science do I deny?
It's empirical, and you deny astronomy, all of it.
All right, there we go. Was that a lot better?
Yeah, we got to hear all of that.
Yeah. Good. So here we go. Here we go, Gamma Panda. It's empirical. You deny astronomy, all of it. I think you have a problem with the word empirical, and this has been a pandemic ever since the beginning. And you could thank Timmy Clown for this, because Timmy Clown has put out that empirical is just observable. That's not what it is. So let's compare. Empirical science entails a systematic approach to epistemology that uses observable, testable, repeatable, and falsifiable experimentation to understand how nature commonly behaves. From allaboutScience.org. Right? So empirical evidence, again, is observable, testable, repeatable, and falsifiable. But Professor Strobel above just said astronomy is entirely observational. Remember? Unlike the other sciences, astronomy is entirely observational. You cannot run experiments on things. You cannot manipulate the objects to see how they work. Ergo, astronomy is not empirical. It's very simple. So, I don't know what you're going to do. This train wreck is just going to continue on rolling down the tracks. Let's continue.
And
astronomy isn't science because it's just theoretics.
In your opinion, however,
well, it's just theoretics.
Shut up.
It can change tomorrow. It can change tomorrow, though, Jim.
However, in everyone else's opinion, it is a science. So if someone says you're a science, shut up. If someone says you are a science denier, by everybody's understanding of what is and isn't science, you are a science denier because you are denying an entire field of science. Now, because you don't consider it, shut up, Jeremy. Because you don't consider it to be a science, that's just you denying the science. That's not you getting out of denying the science. That is your denial of the science.
So, Gamma Panda, in everyone else's opinion, astronomy is a science. Well, this is a flailing, generalized, baseless, bare assertion fallacy right on its face. It's also, if everyone can tell, an ad populum fallacy. Couched in the ad populum's opinion, the subjective. This is going to have deeper ramifications going forward. I just want you to catch a hold of this, right? Because this is going to come up again. So obviously, this is ad populum fallacy. Then follows it up and says, Gamma Panda. So, if someone says you're a science denier, by everybody's understanding of what is and isn't science, you are a science denier because you are denying an entire field of science. I mean, this is a belly-laughing, non-sequitur fallacy circle jerk of epic proportions. I mean, don't know what else to say. Essentially, he's saying you're a science denier because you're a science denier. Essentially. I don't know, guys. Any thoughts on this quickly?
Yeah, again, I read him like a book. I haven't seen this presentation prior to now, and I've got it absolutely spot on. What he needs is his science, which in this case is astronomy, to be science still. Because then when somebody says, no, that's not correct, or for example, whoever his opponent is in this example, he said he was named Jeremy by what he yelled at him. He said, you are denying an entire field of science. Therefore, I can ignore what you say and brand you a science denier. Well, simultaneously, not realizing or subconsciously realizing that what's actually occurring is he's denying science and presenting something that isn't science as science. And then when somebody denies this non-science, they get to call them science deniers. Obviously, this has been taken away from them, but they still want to be able to call us flat earthers science deniers when they present something that isn't science. That little magic trick was shattered 2 years ago. They're going to have to get used to it.
Oh, you haven't seen anything.
All we had to do was ask them, where's your science? And they've had to change their whole stance. It's a beautiful thing.
Was it Witsit there?
Yeah, shout out to Witsit. Again,
Yeah.
if I didn't shout you out, Witsit, he had to put up with this nonsense for a while now.
But
I tried to get him in on the call. I told him the show was canceled yesterday, so he's excused. I tried to get him this morning, but I couldn't get a hold of him. But yes, shout out to Witsit. Go ahead.
Well, just on that, I think that's Owen was talking earlier about technique of what he does, and that's a great example. You see how he flipped and tried to force false admissions, but Whitsim hold him well to task to the point where he's trying to create that false analogy where it is a science, and obviously no one in academia is going to come out and go, cosmology is not really science, you know what I mean, in these massive things you can pull up. But what I thought was clever with Witsit was that he held it to the fundamentals that people will stick to, which was it's theoretical, and therefore it can't be scientific. And once he'd admit to it being theoretical, he wouldn't admit to the conclusion. He had to go to distraction techniques, and I think that's kind of where they're at. They can't. There's certain things that you can get citations for that they end up huffing and puffing, and then finally admit before you pull it up, you know. But ultimately, it's still a distraction from the conclusion. Do you know what I mean? And there was a point in there he thought he could cling on, and that's what I'm saying. Kudos to Witsit. He thought he could go with the point. It's not a science. You find me a citation that it's not a science. Not what Witsit quoted and said, is it? And he pulled him back to it, and then again, that's when he realised he lost, and exploded towards the end. And it's very telling. They've got very little left, as long as you don't accept what they do, which is just try and rewrite the sentence you've just given them to address.
Wait till you see what this leads
Worst part
into.
of it
Go ahead.
The worst part of it is he's trying to salvage a now failed ad hom fallacy. So the old fallacy was just, you say NASA's fake. Flat Earther says NASA's fake and shows some green screen footage. And the person on Gem's side, the Globe side, says, you're a science denier. This is science. You can't deny science. It's being presented as real and called science, and you can't deny that, you science denier. Moving on. And that was where the conversation would like to have ended for their side of the Globe argument. Now, obviously, if we're pointing out how they deny actual scientific method-based experimentation, that would be science, and what they're presenting isn't that, they suddenly lose the ability to actually rattle off this you science denier ad hom, and by all rights, Witsit could be calling him the science denier, because that's the scenario that's actually befalling them. He's saying, you've got something that's theoretical, not to be confused with scientific theory, just to add that in. You've got something that's colloquially not proven, theoretical, colloquially. And he's saying, based on that, it's not empirical, absolutely fact. Well, the reply is, no, this is science. Well, look up the definition of pseudoscience. Where a claim of science is being made and there's no application of the scientific method. That's the definition of pseudoscience. So therefore, what you've got is a man punting pseudoscience and desperately flailing to hang on to the ad hominem fallacy attack that you, my friend, denying my pseudoscience, are a science denier. That's what he's trying to grasp hold of. It's pathetic, scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Like I said, you haven't seen anything yet. I'm telling you.
This is one of those instances where I like to go to my main man, Michio Kaku, right? Who says in science, we always say that you make observations and you have a theory and you make more observations, and it's a very tedious process. Wrong. Nobody that I know of in my field uses the so-called scientific method. In our field, it's by the seat of your pants. It's leaps of logic. It's guesswork. Michio Kaku.
Yep.
You are a
So
legend.
even he understands the difference between actual science, right, based on scientific method, and what he's doing, and what they're all doing in cosmology, right? He gets it. Why don't the people who are defending the same side to get it?
Yeah, they don't.
Even he, a qualified cosmologist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not. He just gets it. He's clearly stating what it is, not in totally unequivocal terms, as Chocolate eloquently recites. I was going to say you're a legend, mate, the way you do that. And it's interesting that that's ignored. It's not addressed. It's not dealt with by the ballers. They wouldn't. They're happy to quote Mr. Kaku, whatever his name is, when it suits them. But in such an unequivocal statement, it's ignored. It's not addressed, or even. I mean, how do you even try and rewrite that? You know what I mean? Into your fallacy. It's a struggle. But for me, fundamentally, it's that they didn't address that because he's just said, not science.
All right, I don't want you guys to lose the point here. We got to roll on. But listen to what he said, or read what he said in everyone else's opinion and by everybody's understanding. So this is a textbook ad populum fallacy, right? So
I was going to add that, actually. It does actually crap all over his ad populum fallacy because he's saying nobody thinks this. Oh, really? Well, Michio Kaku. He certainly seems to think it. And you read off, I've forgotten who the citation was from earlier. But you're like, you want a citation? Here's one with it specifically and explicitly stating that it's not experimental-based science. It's not science. Merely observational. Well, there's your citation. There's two people far more qualified than you. Ad populum fallacy fail.
Yeah. So listen what he tries to do now. Here we go.
So I will unmute you now. Sorry, Jeremy.
You're an idiot. So okay, so basically this dude, all he did was appeal to majority that a lot of people think that this is what science is, just like I guess a lot of people thought slavery was cool back in the day. You're really making us astound intellectual postulation there. You're knocking out of the park. So simply, the fact is that it's nothing more. It's nothing more than
introducing slavery to
because he appealed to majority. Back in the day, people thought slavery was okay. Yeah, you said everybody thinks this is science. That's what you said.
Well,
you said since everybody thinks it's science, then you have to believe it, or you're a science denier. Now here's the dude. You muted me, Jim, and then you don't even let me respond.
I'm going to have to mute you.
So you mute me and then interrupt me, and then you're going to mute me again.
I'm responding to what you've just said.
I'm still responding to when you muted me in monologue, though.
All right, keep going.
Okay, so the entire point that I've made the entire time that you're skating past is if it is theoretics inherently, then that means it is not scientific or nor empirical nor objective because it can change tomorrow. As soon as just like whenever they thought it was different until they found the galaxy rotational. Until they found, see, dude. Till they saw the galaxy rotational speeds in the 50s, they had to update the model. Okay, it's theoretics, bro.
We sit on the inside and it's coming second.
You hear this guy in the background just blithering and blathering, trying to interrupt the conversation. I don't know who that was, but you need to return to from whence you came, underneath the abominations of the earth. Did you guys hear that? I just want to let you know. I wanted to stop there for a second. You'll hear him.
Yes, that's fair. I definitely want to linger on that.
Demon.
You want to linger on it a little? Go ahead.
I know it's only a partial interruption just to point that out, but absolutely that's standard fare. So I'm raising my eyebrows thinking, my God, Witsit so on point. He knows exactly how to summarize their position, how to demolish it, do it all in a breath. Man, the guy's talented. My admiration level for Witsit went up a massive amount after hearing that. Not only that, he's getting muted left, right, and centre. Oh, what a shock. Critical of me for actually controlling people who do what the guy did that you pointed out. So he's getting to summarize the conclusion of the point. It's theoretical. Don't have any empirical science. That's his entire argument. That's Witsit's argument, in summary, to demolish the point. And what happens? Some guy from the peanut gallery talks through the conclusion. Why? Well, it's like him sticking his fingers in his ears while the conclusion's being made and going, la, 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 la. Because they want to hear it. Yeah? Witsit annihilated both of them. Well, they don't want to hear the annihilation, so they'll talk through it. Or, as Jem Panda did, mute the conclusion that he hasn't challenged, uses scraping the bottom of the barrel ad hom, you're a science denier as a rebuttal, and the actual conclusion, the point that's being made, gets muted, talked through. That's why I've got my show, fundies. Yeah? You're in the majority, you shouldn't have to do any of that stuff.
Yep, I agree. Let me finish it off. You can listen to it again. Listen to him in the background. It's appalling.
We sit on the inside and it's level and we come in second and fourth.
It's based on entirely on observation, which is empirical. And I did not make an appeal to a majority. What you described was an appeal to majority and also a straw man, because I didn't say it.
So he makes it to, this is utterly, this is the double speak, right? He said he didn't do it, right? But what did he do? So we got Witsit, champion of truth. You appealed to majority. Gamma Panda. No, I didn't. I did not appeal to the majority. Witsit, champion of truth. You said because everybody thinks this is science, you have to believe it or you're a science denier. Yeah, that's what he said. Gamma Panda, I did not make an appeal to majority. It's a straw man because I didn't say that. This isn't even double speak. And it was just 30 seconds before, sir. You said, and I quote right here, in everyone else's opinion, that is astronomy, is a science. That's an appeal to majority. It's an ad populum fallacy. And then you doubled down and said, so if someone says you're a science denier, by everybody's understanding, that's an appeal to a majority fallacy, dude. I mean, what type of shrooms are you smoking?
Out of his mind.
I mean, sir, let's just continue. But listen to this.
Yeah, you did.
I made an argument. Twit made the claim that you're a science denier.
Yeah, but she doesn't even have the competence to say anything, so I don't give a shit.
I'm still talking. As science is defined, you are a science denier. Now, you have your own... Shut up. You have your own definition of science, but as I said, that is your process of science denial. We have to go with what the common understanding of the word science is. I'm not saying you have to accept that common understanding because it's a common understanding, but if we're going with the general common understanding of the word science, then by that definition, you are a science denier.
Did you all catch that? I'll read it for you again. This is a belly laughing joke of a dumpster fire. Right?
Now I remember why I hate Japan.
Hold on a second, guys. Let me go ahead and read it and make a conclusion from it, then you could jump in. So this is what he said. Gamma Panda, you have your own definition of science, but as I said, that is your process of science denial. We have to go with the common understanding of what the word science is. I'm not saying you have to accept that common understanding, but it's a common understanding. But if we were going with the general common understanding of the word science, then by that definition, you are a science denier. Listen up, folks. This isn't even Elmer Fudd sophistry. This is rudderless, babbling retard, right? Number one, the meaning of the word science isn't even the argument. It's what is or is not natural science. And number two, a definition isn't a process, right? Your own definition of science in the process. Definitions aren't processes, dude. Number three, common understanding. That's an ad populum fallacy again. Number four, you didn't even define natural science, common or otherwise. Non sequitur fallacy. I'm not saying you have to accept the common understanding because it's a common understanding. What the hell does that even mean? He doesn't even have to accept it because it's a I don't know. Number six, you said common understanding 4 times in 3 short sentences, which was excruciating. Number 7, you introduced a new one, general common understanding. Is that different than just common understanding? Number 8, citation for common understanding and general common understanding, please. Number 9, define natural science. We're going to need citation with that also. And number 10, citation for common understanding of natural science and general common understanding of natural science. So, natural science, Gamma Panda, the intellectual and practical activity encompassing the systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation and experiment. The scientific method from ScienceDaily.com. The scientific method is a body of techniques for investigating phenomena, acquiring new knowledge, or correcting and integrating previous knowledge. It is based on gathering observable, empirical, we're going to be coming back to this, and measurable evidence subject to specific principles of reasoning, the collection of data through observation and experimentation, and the formulation and testing of hypotheses. Although procedures may vary from one field of inquiry to another, identifiable features distinguish scientific inquiry from other methodologies of knowledge. Scientific researchers propose hypotheses as explanations of phenomena and design experimental studies to test these hypotheses. These steps must be repeatable in order to predict dependability. I'm sorry I had to do the hypothesis. Shout out to M. Scott Veach, booger-eating schmuck. Moreover, and I've sprinkled it throughout the presentation, the scientific method distinguishes science from other forms of explanation because of its requirement of systematic experimentation. So, ruh-roh, Shaggy, you got a problem. Again, from Professor of Physical Science, Nick Strobel. Unlike the other sciences, astronomy is entirely observational. You cannot run experiments on things. You cannot manipulate the objects to see how they work. So this one is saying that you must have experiment to have science, and this is saying you cannot run experiments in astronomy. Therefore, astronomy is not science. Like I said, so according to the tenets of actual natural science, astronomy clearly doesn't pass muster. Go ahead, guys. Feast.
You see how he subtly changed the... Oh, can you put yourself on mute? He subtly changed the fallacy from ad populum, i.e. everyone thinks this, to consensus opinion, which is what this is really all about. So in that particular little clip, what he's describing is his idea that because the general populace, that would be consensus, thinks we're on a sphere, and they call that consensus reality science, that makes it true. That's basically what this is about. So it reminds me of going on Steve McCloud's show, Steve McClown of the Clan McClowns, as you call him, and he answered a question immediately that was put to him by, I believe it was either Chris or Sleeping Warrior, I forget who. But they said, what's the standards here? What are we up against in terms of the standards of who's right and wrong in this discussion? And the answer was very, very straightforward. Consensus decides what is right or what is wrong. In other words, if your argument, logical or otherwise, doesn't toe the line of consensus, then it is false. And that is essentially what Jen Panda's doing. My science is agreed upon by the consensus. Therefore, if you deny my science, and your method of science is just your way of denying science. It's not the real science. The process in science is the method. That's what science is. But you say, no, that process is your way of denying it. No, it isn't. No, that's just science. It's a method. It's very simplistic. It's not a worldview. It's a method. Nevertheless, you've got a worldview that's based around the consensus opinion that we're on a ball. And because science says we're on a ball, you're a science denier. No, it doesn't have any scientific validity, Jen Panda. You're just going to have to deal with it. It's been 2 years. Get used to it. You are a science denier. We're the ones pointing it out.
That's what they are, right? They're a bunch of consensus soldiers, right? Status quo soldiers. Right, a bunch of people decided to think for themselves one day and not accept the mainstream narrative that they've been handed to them. And these clowns all decide to become their little guardians of their model and try to literally stop us from denying their consensus. I mean, that's their goal. It's their purpose. Why are they doing that? Is my question. Like, I don't understand.
Fanatical religious zealotry.
I don't get that.
I just explained it. Fanatical religious zealotry. All right, we ready to roll?
All right.
Here we go.
Well, the good thing that the world doesn't work by your little dumbass definition, son. So,
Oh, yes, it does.
Shut the
Absolutely,
fuck
it
up.
does.
I'm responding now, Gamma. So, actually, I'm a pseudoscience denier. I do not stake belief in that masquerades claiming to be science void of empirical proof. So, the problem here is you're trying to say astronomy is okay to invoke as a science when it's literally you looking up at the sky and observing, and then bam, that's it. Then you theorize based on the current model and its confinements and the equations within, and you find a theory that you think is applicable and acceptable within those predetermined confinements. And if you make a new discovery tomorrow, you got to change it. We're just making guesses about the sky. The people that actually specialize in this field admit that, and they're off by 10 to the 120th power when it comes to the occupation of the space itself. So inherently, it is not science. It is not empirical. It's theoretical. It cuts off at observable phenomena. Then you theorize what happens. I don't have to believe fairy tales.
Nonsense. So
nuh-uh is about the level you work at.
You can theorize what happens, and you can test your theory by seeing if it happens. That's entirely empirical.
Gamma Panda. Nonsense that everyday just hand waves dismiss everything that Witsit said, which was right on point, by the way. He says, nonsense. You can theorize what happens, then you can test your theory by seeing if it happens. That's entirely empirical. No. You're bass-ackwards. Scientific theories are the result of tested hypotheses. You don't start off theorizing, you window licker. You hypothesize that supposition, what may happen, then you test it by experiment. Not seeing the phenomena again, you ignorant mung. If it is validated by experiment, then it becomes a scientific theory. Here's the definitions of it. You ready? Scientific theories from Chemistry About. A scientific theory summarizes a hypothesis or group of hypotheses that have been supported with repeated testing. From quarks to quasars, a scientific theory consists of one or more hypotheses that have been supported with repeated testing. And from University of Rochester Physics Labs. Listen, do you see a repeating refrain here? A scientific theory represents a hypothesis or a group of related hypotheses, which has been confirmed through repeated experimental tests. So pretty consistent here. Like I said, you're bass-ackwards. Scientific theories are never tested directly. It's the hypothesis or hypotheses that underlie the scientific theory that are tested. So, and by the way, this guy thinks that if you see something, and I mentioned this before, it's empirical. Now, we're going to get to more on this here in a couple minutes. Just hold tight. Let's go. Go ahead.
So, is it unreasonable to start jumping in on this whole observation of empiricism when it's like, I don't know, you see a hot spring and go, I think it's acid that's causing that water to boil. And then you close your eyes real tight for 30 seconds. And then you open it again and go, hey, it's boiling still. Repeated observation. Well, that's empirical right there. Definitely acid that caused it to boil. What's that you say? It's heat? Well, how did you establish that? What, with a method? What kind of method? I empirically validated it. I closed my eyes for 30 seconds. I opened them again, and there it was. It was still boiling. Repeated observation. That's empiricism right there.
That's. Can I add to that? Because I don't think that Gem Panda would be so naive. The way he'd validate it is whilst it's boiling, he'd check the pH and he'd see it's less than 7. Go, oh, it's acidic. I'd say then close his eyes, come back later, test the pH again. It's still less than 7. It's still boiling. So hypothesis proven.
Wow.
Well, seems like we're analyzing a fantasist here who doesn't know what empiricism is.
Oh, we're gonna get to that. This is really scary, man. I really listen. I'm going to let you guys out there, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, and you guys could be the judge of that. Oh, here we go with empirical. So we're right on it, right on time.
No.
So you are a science denier, even by your standards.
You're actually just an idiot. So.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you actually.
the science of the math.
How is seeing something not empirical? Make an argument for that. I'd love to hear it.
Okay. He said, how is seeing something not empirical? I told you, he thinks that just looking at something means it's empirical. So he says, how is seeing something not empirical? Make an argument for that. I'd love to hear it. No problemo.
Well,
seeing something means observing it, while empirical means observable, testable, repeatable, and falsifiable. So, Gamma Panda, you're guilty of clumsily employing the fallacy of composition, also known as a composition fallacy, exception fallacy, and faulty induction. You see, the description of this fallacy is inferring that something is true of the whole from the fact that it is true or some part of the whole. You see what you're doing? You're taking only this one and saying it's empirical, but guess what you're forgetting? These. So you, sir, are guilty of the fallacy of composition. Take that. I know somebody was trying to say something back there. Go ahead.
No, I was agreeing with you, John. I had left my mic on. Sorry, mate. I was like, I didn't realise, but it kind of exemplifies the point I was making. It's using, again, ignorance of what you think the empirical method is, kind of what the analogy was making. I was making with regards to, you know what I mean? That you use that as if that, just because you do measure something accurately, if you're not measuring something that's got anything to do with what IVDVs are, then kind of irrelevant. And that's probably giving him more credit in terms of what he's saying, but I think that's what he's trying to imply, that if there's any link
he's trying to listen to what he said. Thanks a lot, Timmy Clown, because this is where he got this from years and years ago. I know, I was in the hangout with him. He's saying just seeing something is empirical, just looking at it. But that's not it, because that's, like I said, it's a fallacy of composition.
That's what I'm saying. He's trying to link a part of the empirical method. I was going to say to you, I'm glad we're on Skype, John, because if you put your camera on, I can watch you empirically. He's trying to use parts of that as if part of it validates it and makes it empirical. It's all of those things, testable, repeatable, falsifiable, that becomes the empirical side of it. Yeah, and not just the unpink bit, the observable. Yeah, but what he's trying to say is if it contains one of those, it's the and or. We're back to that, aren't we? It's that understanding of the words and or. Realistically, is what he's pulling it to. I've got a bit of this.
It's the same reason why this crap is not science, because all they've got is the first step, right? Yeah, they can observe natural phenomenon all day. Okay, great. What are they doing after that? Right? You can't do anything after that. So it's using the word empirical. Well, empirical means observable, repeatable, testable, falsifiable. Well, you got observable. Okay, great. But what about the other three?
So is he observing empirically?
Let me give you an analogy.
Yeah,
So
you can't put words. Sorry, Nathan.
If obviously I've got a Ferrari, right, and I say, look at it, and I show you the picture, and in the picture you see a Ferrari engine, and you're an expert. And you go, yeah, that's a Ferrari engine right there. You go, yeah, I've got a Ferrari. And they go, okay, let's see the rest of it. No. What rest of it? That's a Ferrari. So just replace Ferrari with the word empirical. So I've got empirical evidence. Really? So you've got observable and testable, repeatable, validatable, based on hypothesis science. That's what empiricism means. If you look at the definition, it even says testable by experiment in Wiki. So empiricism has got a very specific definition for what it is. Whereas if you just take one aspect of it, the observable aspect, the first step, as Chocolate points out, well, then you're looking at a Ferrari engine only. That doesn't mean you've got a Ferrari. You haven't got empiricism if you've just got observation. And you haven't got a Ferrari if you've just got a Ferrari engine.
Yeah, this is just a simple fallacy of composition, man. It's a train wreck, dumpster fire. Let's move on. It's going to get better. Here's his typical spiel that everyone parrots. I'm still loving it. Here we go.
I said empirically prove something.
No science empirically proves things.
Well, that's what you have to claim because there's literally zero proof for your globe
Can I
model.
jump in? Can I jump in real quick?
Wait, Jim, do you agree you have to say that because there's literally zero proof for your globe model, right?
I say that because science doesn't prove things.
Okay, so then you would have to agree there's zero proof for the globe model then, right?
Love it. Science doesn't prove things. Yeah, here we go. Gamma Panda. No science empirically proves things. Science doesn't prove things. Really? Let's go back to Science Daily. The scientific method, it is based on gathering observable, empirical, and measurable. Notice how observable and empirical are separated. Did you notice that? I'll start over. It is based on gathering observable, empirical, and measurable evidence subject to the specific principles of reasoning, the collection of the data through observation and experimentation, and the formulation and testing of a hypothesis. Duh. Right? Although procedures vary from one field of inquiry to another, identifiable features distinguish scientific inquiry from other methodologies of knowledge. We already went over these in a number of presentations where I said the three distinguishing characteristics are what? Hypothesis, testing, and observation of a natural phenomena. They're just saying the same thing. So don't lose sight of what he said. Science doesn't prove things. Okay. From Lumen Learning, Biology for Majors 2, Forming a Hypothesis. When conducting scientific experiments, researchers develop hypotheses to guide experimental design. A hypothesis is a suggested explanation that is both testable and falsifiable. You must be able to test your hypothesis, and it must be possible to prove your hypothesis true or false. So, science still doesn't prove things, huh? You're going down for the count. I'm loving this. From Genome Research in 1999 from Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory Press. Students are taught that the proper way, look how many times it says prove or disprove and experimental proof in this short paragraph. You're finished. Students are taught that proper way to do science is through the following steps. First, devise a hypothesis, and then design experiments that will prove or disprove your theory. The conscientious scientist follows this with a deliberate collection of data from these carefully crafted experiments, and the data prove or disprove, again, the aforementioned theory, thereby placing a new stepping stone in the path through the jungle of our unknown universe. It seems obvious that this is an appropriate way of moving forward in science. In fact, in most published papers, the hypothesis is put forth, followed by, what does this say? Experimental proof. Did you hear that? Experimental proof. And ending with a restatement of the veracity of the theory and potential future steps. Let's pile on. From Anne-Marie Helmenstein, PhD, Biomedical Sciences. Remember, Gem Panda, science doesn't prove things. A hypothesis is a tentative answer to a scientific question. A testable hypothesis is a hypothesis that can be proved or disproved. Again, as a result of testing, data collection, or experience. Only testable hypotheses can be used to conceive and perform an experiment using the scientific method. Requirements for a testable hypothesis. In order to be considered testable, two criteria must be met. It must be possible to prove that the hypothesis is true. It must be possible to prove that the hypothesis is false. Duh. It must be possible to reproduce the results of the hypothesis. This is getting you need to call your therapist. From McClellan Kristen, The Nature of Science and the Scientific Method. Remember, Gem Panda, science doesn't prove things. Once the hypothesis has been established, it's a time to test it. It is time to test it. The process of experimentation is what sets science apart from other disciplines. It leads to discoveries every day. An experiment is designed to do what? Prove or disprove the hypothesis. If your prediction is correct, you will not be able to reject the hypothesis. And then finally, we'll go with Dr. Craig Venter, the geneticist of geneticists. You know, there's some things we can do in science in terms of proving certain things in life we discover. So, Gem Panda, I don't know where you got this from. Your parody, I don't know where, I think you just made it up, right? Because you are crushed, just crushed. You'd fail 5th grade general science. Comments, questions?
Yeah, I want to break this down. So, wait for QE to go on mute. So basically, we started off the conversation with an assertion from the ball side, that's Gem Panda, the globe side, that he's got science and qualifying what he's got and why it is science. And if you deny it because it isn't science, as Witsit points out, then you're a science denier. Towards the end of the conversation, we find out that what Gem Panda's calling science, according to him, doesn't prove things. Now let's break that down in the actual reality, as we've just established what is science, and it absolutely establishes the cause of your effect if you prove your alternative hypothesis, or disproves that you guessed correctly if you prove you're null. So we know what science really is. It's very well established, and kudos to QE for doing that. But what he's disclaimed is that his science, that's the ball globe science, doesn't prove things. And that's correct. What he thinks he's got as science isn't proving anything. And yet when you point that out to them, your denial of their non-proof of anything makes you a science denier. No. The reality is as follows. What was asserted as globe proof is in fact pseudoscience that doesn't prove anything. And hell be it for anybody who denies it, right? Deny it all you like, it's not empirical. And if you deny it, you'll be labelled the science denier, when in reality, and kudos to Witsit, because he caught this immediately, right? He knew exactly what was going on. My hat's very much off to him in this discussion, because he caught it and called it out as soon as it happened. Like, good, you know what the score is. You're going to tell him that if you're going to say science doesn't prove anything, that ultimately means that you're claiming all of this science denial that I'm supposed to be guilty of, it didn't prove anything anyway. So what was I denying? Non-proof of your ball? Wowee. So kudos to you, Witsit gets it, but immediately nailing him on the point. Oh, right. So we've established that we don't agree on what science actually is. Yours is special science that doesn't have any empirical method attached to it. But that particular science, according to you, doesn't prove anything. So therefore, summed up beautifully by Witsit, your claim proof doesn't prove anything then. Well, science absolutely does, Gem Panda.
If you thought that was a train wreck, you ain't seen anything yet. I'll tell you that much. Get ready.
Chocolate.
Yeah, well, it's an odd one, that, isn't it? The way they do that. It's a bit like I'll put it. You want to go to Proofsyville, don't you? You're there. I want to get to Proofsyville, just down the road. Yeah. And there's the science bus over there. But it says on it, apparently, this stuff does not go to Proofsyville. So why would you get on that bus if you want to go to Proofsyville? It's the whole point of the bus of science is to go to Proofsyville. So to then pretend that it doesn't go there, just to, again, it's the only way, the only fallback, because your argument's so weak, only thing you can then do is pretend that the methodology that proves or disproves things doesn't prove or disprove things. And as Nathan says, kudos to Witsit. He said, well, that's fine. You want to accept that, then nothing you say proves or disproves anything. Which is...
I could think of a reason why he would go on that bus. To hijack it and make it stop at Proofsyville.
Spot on, Arwin.
No, to pretend that there's an alternative town that looks just like Proofsyville, but is a fake one, like the old westerns. They're all plastic.
No. I've got to interrupt. Arwin's right. What happens on the bus to Proofsyville is it goes through alternative hypothesis town, null hypothesis town, systematic experimentation town, and the hijacker goes, "No, we're going direct to Proofsyville." And you go, no, the journey doesn't work unless you go through those particular towns because we've got to pick up particular things on the way. And they go, no, we don't need those things. We just need to say we're in Proofsyville.
This Proofsyville,
I
man.
like that.
Exactly.
Let's move on because I don't listen. I'm just going to leave this out there for you guys. I'm just going to go over the material. You make your own conclusions. Here we go.
Well, proof.
There is a lot of evidence to support.
Okay, but there's not any proof of the globe, right?
Let me answer that question. Proof is subjective.
So, Gamma Panda, proof is subjective. What this moron is preaching now and for the next 5-6 minutes, you're just not going to. He's saying more or less that there's no such thing as objective proof or evidence. Only subjective proof or evidence exists. Think I'm kidding? Just hold on. Let's ferret out what objective versus subjective means, right? From butte.edu. Everyone intuitively knows this, I hope, from second grade on, but I don't even know why I have to provide citation for this. I really don't. But I'm going to do it anyway. Be comprehensive. An objective claim is a statement about a factual matter, one that can be proved, true or false. For factual matters, there exists widely recognized criteria and methods to determine whether a claim is true or false. A subjective claim, on the other hand, is not a factual matter. It is an expression of belief, opinion, or personal preference. A subjective claim cannot be proved, right or wrong, by any generally accepted criteria. From disabilitylawyers.com, objective versus subjective evidence. The Law Dictionary defines objective evidence as evidence that is not subject to bias and is quantifiable and able to be independently confirmed and verified by using analytical or other tools. Simply put, objective evidence is based on facts and is the kind of evidence that can be, this is very important, independently examined, evaluated, and verified. Subjective evidence, on the other hand, see, they said on the other hand because it's going to be the antithesis of objective evidence. So subjective evidence, on the other hand, is evidence that is in the form of an opinion or self-report that cannot be independently examined, evaluated, or verified, but must either be accepted on faith or rejected. From key differences between objective and subjective, here we go again. I think you're getting the picture by now. At the end of the discussion, objective information is one that produces the complete truth. That is, it presents a story from all the angles in a systematic way. It is a fact, which is, again, provably true. On the contrary, here we go with the antithesis of objective information. Subjective information is colored by the character of the person providing it. It is an interpretation or analysis of the facts based on personal beliefs, opinion, perspective, and feelings. So, according to Gamma Panda, the only proof is that which is based on opinion, belief, and feelings, the subjective, that cannot be proved. Subjective proof is a contradiction in terms. Do you want to? It's going to go on for a few more minutes. Do you want me to continue? This is so.
I just wanted to.
Go ahead.
I'll contrast it with the definition of consensus. Mute QE. Somebody else has got their mic wide open because it's causing a load of feedback. Anyway, consensus, a general agreement, and then there's a little example underneath. There is a growing consensus that the current regime has failed, end quote. That's the example under the dictionary definition of consensus. A general agreement. That is what they have on their side. Not science, a general agreement.
In other words, we got to go with something. We don't get this.
Yeah. He doesn't know the important point of the matter. He doesn't know the difference or what is objective versus subjective, and it's going to be a train wreck dumpster fire of epic proportions. Let's continue.
I can present a body of evidence for something. Whether a person considers that to be proof of something is down to them. This is why we have a jury in a court.
So, I'll just present it. Conclusion. Gamma Panda, I can present a body of evidence for something. Whether a person considers that to be proof of something is down to them. That is why we have a jury in a court. Number one, this window licker thinks that there's a difference between proof and evidence. Proof is evidence. From Merriam-Webster, evidence, A, an outward sign, indication, something that furnishes proof. From Oxford Dictionaries, the definition of proof, right out of the gate, the first word, what is it? Evidence. Or argument establishing a fact or truth of a statement. Prove, from Collins Dictionary, to test by experiment. That's how we prove things in science, to test by experiment. Again, scientific evidence from the Law Dictionary. The testing of a hypothesis or theory that is objective and in a controlled environment. Proof synonyms, confirmation, evidence, validation. Number two, this window licker conflates scientific evidence with a secular jury trial. You can't make this up. The scientific method and a secular jury trial are not the same. By a country mile, there's an abyss between them. Unbelievable. Let's hear. He's going to say proof is subjective again. We might as well hear it again. It's so stupid, but we'll do it.
What one person considers to be proof is not the same as what another person.
Yeah, but consideration doesn't change the proof itself. So do I need to cite higher education that says you're a moron for saying proof is subjective, or would you like to just go ahead and retract it?
Proof is subjective.
Yep, he's going to stick with it. Proof is subjective, so the only proof out there is based on opinions and beliefs. We'll roll past that. We already went over that one. Here we go.
Do what you like.
So I guess I'll just cite all the higher education that you revere as your priesthood.
Go ahead. Let's see.
Okay, I will. And okay, Jim, my question was simple. You skated past it. Do you agree that there's no actual proof for the globe Earth?
Again, that would depend on what.
No, it doesn't depend on anything. You said there's no such thing as proof, so you have to say yes.
No, I did not.
Yes, you did. You said you can't. You said science doesn't empirically prove anything.
Yes, that is not.
Okay, so that means that you haven't empirically proved the globe, right?
Shut up.
Just answer the question.
Science doesn't prove things is not the same. Listen. Science doesn't prove things is not the same as there's no such thing as proof. They're two completely different statements. I did not say there's no such thing as proof. Again,
is there such thing as proof then?
Subjectively, yes.
Okay, so that means it's not actual proof then, because we can have opposing interpretations, right? But only one of the interpretations can be true, right? They can't simultaneously be true.
If you're saying, can you access objective proof? No, you cannot.
So there's no objective proof the Earth's a globe then, right?
Well, you can't. No, there's no way to. There's no such thing as objective proof in our existence.
There's no such thing as objective proof in our existence, people. Listen, let me just present it again. Objective versus subjective evidence. The Law Dictionary defines objective evidence, which he doesn't think exists, as evidence that is not subject to bias and is quantifiable and able to be independently confirmed and verified by using analytical or other tools. Simply put, objective evidence is based on facts and is the kind of evidence that can be independently examined, evaluated, and verified. So he says that this doesn't exist, but this subjective evidence. exist. Subjective evidence, on the other hand, is evidence that is in the form of an opinion or self-report that cannot be independently examined, evaluated, or verified, but must be either accepted on faith or rejected. Again, here we go again. An objective claim is a statement about a factual matter, one that can be proved, true or false. For factual matters, there exist widely recognized criteria and methods to determine whether a claim is true or false. As a subjective claim, on the other hand, is not a factual matter. It is an expression of belief, opinion, or personal preference. A subjective claim cannot be proved right or wrong by any general criteria. So according to Jim Panda, a subjective claim or subjective evidence is the only thing exists, and objective evidence doesn't exist. Clearly. At the end of the discussion, this is key differences between objective and subjective. At the end of the discussion, objective information is one that produces the complete truth. It presents a story from all angles in a systematic way. It is a fact which is provably true. On the contrary, just like above, on the other hand, subjective information is colored by the character or person providing it, is an interpretation or analysis of the facts based on personal beliefs, opinions, perspectives, and feelings. So according to Jim Panda, this is the only proof that exists. Just personal beliefs, opinions, and feelings. That's it, which can't be proved true. But the objective information, the one that has to be systematically, independently evaluated and verified, is not. It's not evidence. You can't make this shit up, man. Let's continue. On the same theme.
Okay, so then, of course, inherently, there is an objective proof of the globe Earth then,
Well,
right?
there's no such thing as objective proof.
Okay, so isn't that convenient that whenever you can't have any proof for the globe Earth, now we just don't have any at all ever?
Well, how can you access objective proof? Explain to me how you do that.
Yeah, sure. I'll explain it to you. It's real simple. It's called scientific evidence. The testing of a hypothesis or theory that is objective. You see that? Crayon Muncher. Unbelievable. Scientific evidence, the testing of a hypothesis or theory that is objective and in a controlled environment. You see, Gamma Panda, this rudderless, blithering idiot, considers distilled water boiling. We're going to get to that here in a second. At 212 degrees Fahrenheit, at 100 degrees Celsius, at 1 atmosphere pressure, subjective evidence. He considers that subjective. That's based on personal feelings, taste, or opinions. The subjective. Rather than systematic experimentation that survives independent examination, evaluation, and verification. That's objective. This is what he's going to consider, folks. I'm telling you. Here it comes.
Well, we know that if we have distilled water and we manipulate the variables of pressure and temperature, it's going to boil at the same temperature every single time.
And you know that subjectively?
No. We can empirically demonstrate this.
It's by subjective experience.
Wow, so you're saying the water doesn't boil at the same temperature every time? What's subjective about the water boiling?
No, I never said that.
What's subjective about the water boiling?
I'm saying your experience of it. Everybody's
But what's subjective about the boiling water itself, though?
Like I said, you didn't believe me, did you? Yep. Questions, comments to this point?
Yes. So again, mad props to Witsit gets it because he had him absolutely over a barrel. We start the conversation with science, and the opponent, the globe opponent, Gem Panda, wants to label him a science denier, and then we get to the point where he's having to deny his claimed science, which is actually pseudoscience, as not proving anything. That leaves only one conclusion, that Witsit rammed down his throat. Therefore, you've got no empirical proof of your claim that's based on your science that you're saying I'm a denier of. Yeah, I am. Well, kudos, Witsit gets it. Ram that right down his throat as you did. Because, yeah, that's what it implies. It implies he's got no proof. And their science isn't proving anything. Science, real science, the application of the scientific method does prove things. They just don't have any. When it comes to that conclusion, when you get them over a barrel, as Witsit does, you get to the point where they're basically saying, you're a science denier, but my science doesn't prove anything. Well done, Witsit.
Yep. And Gem Panda just got something. Can I comment, please? I'm trying.
Yeah, go.
Yeah, Jam Panda, I remember this sort of nonsense from him. He's a guy that just tries to drown everything in philosophical extrapolated nonsense. In this case, it's very sad because it was completely solipsistic in nature. So he basically tried a solipsistic philosophical escapism maneuver. And yeah, very blatant and very sad to do something like that at this stage after so many debates and all that. Yeah.
I'm just confused, right? Isn't the whole purpose of them debating us on this is that us living on a magical spinning water ball is supposed to be objective? Isn't that their whole point? So how can this clown now come out and just say that there is no such thing as objective proof?
Yes, exactly, Chocolate. That's their whole argument. Their argument is that the globe is the objective truth. That's their whole argument. Spot on.
Right. They try to hide everything in word tricks. First, they claim authority on some solid ground. Then they basically, when you inquire, start to spout on nonsense about how that solid ground cannot be attained. And it's actually something else. So it's all a giant distraction maneuver, constantly manipulating how to look at things. That's what it is.
Solipsism.
But here's the funny thing, right? On the other side.
Hold on, Chocolate. Go on, Adam, because I wanted to. I heard you mention what I wanted to bring up. So go ahead, Adam. Sorry, Chocolate.
The solipsism point you make is it's a defense mechanism because the argument has gone so badly because they can't produce evidence for their ball. They do revert into solipsism, but even that fundamentally, as you listen again to Whitsitt there, that the best place to bring it to is if they're going to say that science doesn't prove things with their solipsism, which is like I say, a theological, as you say, he goes into that theological point for a defense. If you're going to revert there, then the brilliant rebuttal is what about boiling of water? Something that we can all, as kids, when we're in those science classes, here's your basic first lesson of science. Now there are conditions and parameters with regard to temperature, etc., air pressure, but it's a basic bit of science that you can prove at standard temperature and pressure that water boils at 100 degrees. So you can prove things, and that something as fundamentally basic as what is the boiling point of water destroys them if they do revert into that level of solipsism. And I think Whitsitt did it very well. Not that it's recognised by Gem Panda that he's been destroyed, because he then rages. But do you get me? That's once you've got them to that point, something as simple as the boiling pot of water destroys their level of, oh no, nothing's provable in science. Well, let's boil some water, pal. Put a kettle on.
Well, just to give
Right,
Gem Panda,
he'll just respond double speaking. Sorry. He'll
I'm
just
gonna
say, no, that can be proven. And then he'll keep on turning and turning around on his own arguments as you basically juggle him around at that point until he gets pissed off and then drops or something. That's my prediction.
Well, I will give Gem Panda a tiny drop of props, because at the point where Whitsitt's got him absolutely over a barrel, basically saying, your claim here is that science doesn't prove things, therefore you haven't got any science to prove your globe. That's the main crux of what he had him over a barrel on. And by interjecting and changing the subject subtly onto subjective versus objective, and offering up a question that made Whitsitt give the example, yeah, luckily for the audience watching that and us now, Whitsitt's a really sharp cookie and just immediately gave a really simplistic, and flowed out with him so casually too. It was great. But I don't know, hopefully in the next bit of the conversation, he brings him back to that point. It's like, hang on, you've just disclaimed you've got no evidence for your claim. You know, if nothing's objectively true, then all you've got is a subjective opinion that you're on a model. That's the crux of the reality at the end of this discussion.
You got it.
Again, I can't give it to Whitsitt.
You got it. Exactly. That's the crux of it. The subjective. What a abject train wreck. Gem Panda, you put yourself in here. This is second grade silly. But this is going to be good. This is going to be a long one. I'm going to stop a few times throughout, but get ready. Here we go.
Your experience of it.
But the boiling water has nothing to do with your experience, right? Like if you didn't experience it, it still would have started boiling, right?
You can't make
Did you
any
have to be
comment.
there and watch? Jim, did you have to be there and watch it for it to start boiling? Of course not, right? So your experience is independent of the water boiling itself. It objectively just happens, and we can empirically demonstrate it happens at the same temperature.
Do you have to experience either it or an account of it in order to make a comment on it?
Sure, but your comment on it is again not the same thing as it happening.
And your
itself.
experience.
You think you won? That shows how dumb you are.
Your experience is subjective. I suspect that you think I've won. That's why you said.
You live in a no. How have you won? You've said nothing but stupid shit. I said if you don't experience the water boiling, then it still the water still boils the same temperature. Now you can validate this with replication.
However, your experience of it is subjective. But
that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about what objectively happens. You're conflating the two.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
I'm pointing out to you that you have no objective experiences. You only ever have subjective.
Oh, well, good thing I'm just talking about objective truth. Experience is inherently subjective. That's what the fucking word means.
Right. And you can't.
Right, what? So, can you get back to the point? Does the water objectively boil at a certain temperature?
Your entire experience of reality is subjective. You have
so we're the crazy people because we don't believe in things like nothing can ever be proven. Everything's about how you interpret it. Reality is fluid based on experience and interpretation. There is no truth. There is no objectivity. There is no empirical means of proving things. Everything is theoretical. Therefore, since everything is theoretical, that means you have to accept all theoretical bullshit postulations on their face. No, it's not. You're just not the balls to say it.
I didn't say any of that.
I know you don't have the balls to say it.
All right, let me say this. None of that is true. It's all
okay. Specify like an adult for once.
Well, what? I've got to go through your massive list of.
You don't even know what I said, then I guess.
I definitely cannot remember everything you said.
Okay, you mean to say it like I'm talking to 5-year-olds?
About 8 things very quickly. I definitely can't remember them all.
Just because
it would have been better if you just told the one lie instead of 8 in a row.
Oh, Jim, why do I have to talk so fast?
Jim,
I don't know. I have no idea.
Because I can't get a full coherent statement out in this room without being interrupted by 5 people.
Jim, can you point to a single person where their subjective threshold for proof isn't satisfied by water boiling?
You do the same thing everywhere you go.
I do what?
Blue Marble, do you think I care that you're a gamma and you want to comment on me personally?
We can know that water boils to a certain degree.
Time,
all right, well then shut up, Gamma.
But everything we experience about the water boiling is subjective. There's no such thing as Whitsitt wanted me to produce as objective proof.
Is the experience the same as the water boiling itself? Yes or no?
If you accept the given evidence for the boiling
temperature... Shut up, bitch.
If you accept the given evidence for the boiling temperature of water as proof for the boiling temperature of water, which I do, then that is proof to me of the boiling temperature of water. But we cannot say it is objective proof.
Did you hear that train wreck? Unbelievable. I'll keep going. I just wanted to stop right there.
I was just to say we got to hear the summary as well, right in the middle. He complained after the fact that he'd got interrupted, and he was a little bit, but the summary right in the middle of that little cut was perfect. It was what we just discussed far less concisely for about 3 or 4 minutes before that clip was played. But he's describing how he's basically segueing from something that's objectively true to your experience of something being subjective. It's like when you're under pressure, as Whitsitt obviously is in the discussion there, the concise nature of his summary was beautiful, and it did get heard, Whitsitt. So again, mad props, man. Sorry, QE. I just
It's really it's so good. Go ahead.
It's just lots of interjections to give so much props to Whitsitt because it's just, this is ace. This is so epic, and his summary did get heard, So for those who are listening, you get to hear a really concise version of what we're discussing from Witsit during the discussion, which is just so hard to do. You know, my hat's off to him again. Sorry to labour the point, but just cool.
Yeah,
I
he's
agree.
sharp, man.
If
Go
I
ahead.
may, a short comment. Witsit is, well, kind of like I said, juggling Jam Panda like a pro. And he just flawlessly knows exactly what to say, how to say it with the right energy level. And Jam Panda is literally just shaking apart, starting to stutter and all that. And yeah, having to change his opinions and his angle to things constantly because he's messing up and he won't admit it.
Yes.
Yeah, but
Being juggled.
imagine what he has to go through, starting the conversation with talking about how just observing things is empirical. Now he's ending the conversation with how there is no such thing as an objective truth.
Exactly, Chocolate. You got it, man. It's double
that's a damn
speak on.
shame.
It's not even double
Right.
speak. It's like triple, quadruple, flip over, train wreck, disaster of epic proportions on your own self. This is
But why, John?
preposterous.
Why? What's all this bullshit contradicting yourself? What's all this nonsense for? To just try and still pretend that there's proof of a ball is all I can say. This chicane, this nonsense is solely that. The only reason you're doing all of this is that you can't say, yeah, you know what? There is no evidence for what I believe in.
Yep. That's right.
There's a term for it. There's a term. It's called cognitive dissonance. Now, this would be a great case study for some psychologists crack out there who wants to look at how cognitive dissonance manifests itself. This is them trying to relieve their pain. We say it all the time, but it's so true. What does this result in? Well, I'll tell you. Pain, cognitive pain, because he can't square his own circle.
All right.
Hey, everyone. How are things?
Hey, what's up, Brian? Go ahead, real concisely, because we got to skip through this. Go.
Yeah, just 3 points I'm going to make. I'll be concise about it, just from what I've been hearing. That the term that they use, that science doesn't prove things, that was originally termed as science doesn't prove things, it disproves things. I remember hearing this back in the 90s. And that originates from people doing science experiment where there was more nulls being proven than positive hypotheses. Because if you're trying to find out...
Go ahead, stop right there,
okay.
Brian. I'm going to stop you. Right? Listen to this very carefully. If you disprove something, you ipso facto prove something.
Right? This is one that refers me to psychology, John, with regard to that. And in terms of when I was training that, the null is the most crucial thing. It really does define things very well as to what's going off exactly and specifically in terms of the cause and effect. The trouble is in terms of experimenter bias is that we try to overload the H1 with some of our inference, and it's where that bias is that I think what Brian's talking about, where when we're talking fundamentally, yes, unless your H1 is as rigid as the H0, which is the fault of the experimenter, and I think the analysis where we have to just stick with H0 sometimes, or particularly in psychology, where it's more important to stick with H0, it doesn't prove out for you to progress because psychology isn't a science. You're using that empirical method. Actually, the only side of it you can use is that it doesn't prove this, because you can't prove anything in psychology.
No, you're missing. Hold on a second. Hold on.
Yeah,
Hold on 1 second. One second. See if you can follow this. If I disprove that you're an amoeba, I ipso facto prove you're not an amoeba.
Exactly. That's my point. But what it doesn't prove, is that you're a two-cellular organism. It doesn't, and sometimes it can. You could use the statement. It doesn't prove you're an amoeba because we have the conditions of amoeba, but you could say it proves you're not a single cellular organism. Now, that's where it becomes dodgy in terms of, for me, where I say there is criticism of old science, as we look back on it, that it's that H1 that's overstated in terms of what it can state, where mistakes have been made. H0 generally is solid because it's that, and it's making sure that that H1 is the polar opposite, and that's all. It doesn't imply anything else. That
Adam,
where some of the criticism that where you're hearing the 80s and 90s about you shouldn't it doesn't prove anything. It's out of that. It's a bullshit H1 that doesn't prove anything.
Please define
H1
and H0 before we head over to Nathan.
Sorry.
Again.
Yeah, the null hypothesis is H0, and obviously the H1 is sorry. But that's my point. It's that overstatement that led to those statements that Brian's making. That because I looked at this, because I used to believe that statement, Brian, that science doesn't prove it, and you look at it and you go, oh, that's nonsense. It's not what we were taught. You just get to a certain level, and then they start to twist things so that the only certainty is in the null, and that then becomes not science anymore, because the part of the empiricalness doesn't include a proper definition of H1 and H0, and if you've not got that, then it stops being science because there's faultiness in your method.
The point I was trying to make is when they started coming up with the term science doesn't prove things, it disproves things, was an overgeneralization. That's still a false statement. It was an overgeneralization of the fact that there was more nulls are going to be proven than positive hypotheses, because you could go through 4 or 5 different nulls before you get to your positive hypotheses. And so they were overgeneralizing that. And that's where, and then that got cut down to science doesn't prove things. And then you have people like Jem Panda thinking that there's no proof of anything. So if there's no proof for anything, there's no proof for a globe. And on top of that, there's just as much proof then for flat Earth.
That again is ignorance, isn't it, Brian, in terms of the scientific method, as if to assume that to get a H0, a null hypothesis acceptance, you've learned nothing from this. You've learned so much from accepting your null. You've learned, you can rule all the rest of that out. You've learned it's part of the scientific method and it's part of your understanding. If you get a null, it enables you to then go on, like as you say, for the other 4, you might have to do 4 or 5. But look at what you've learned in accepting a null.
Yeah. Hey, Nathan.
Exactly.
Hold on a second, Brian. Let Nathan get in here, and then I want to continue. You have a chance to wrap this up at the end when we go to Discord. I just want to get through this. Okay.
This is the important detail of this discussion, though, isn't it? Because Adam's absolutely spot on. The null is your default position. And each time, if you listen to what Brian said, he said, they're proving more nulls. Well, at the end of each of the process, so long as you've got a properly formulated hypothesis, if A, then B, that's your alternative. And the null, if A, not B. Well, at the end of the process, one gets a tick next to it, which means proven. Well, Adam also pointed this out. I'm just repeating him, really. He did a really good job. But it's the inference that comes after the fact with your default position being proven. So if A, that would be you vary something that you think is going to cause an effect you observed, and it doesn't cause it, all you've proven is, well, it wasn't that then. That's what you've actually proven, that it isn't that. Your null was proven. If A, I vary this, not B, the effect I'm looking for. Well, that particular hypothesis, the null, is still a hypothesis, is proven. Yeah? Now, by default, QE pointed this out right at the beginning, and I don't know if it went over people's heads or what, automatically the alternative is disproven. So when you validate your null, your standard position gets proven true if A, not B, then you've automatically disproven the alternative. Likewise, the contrapositive is true. So you prove your alternative, if A, then B, automatically invalidating the standard position, the null. So the null is what gives you the empiricism.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Yeah,
And
guys.
then they mistake it all. Sorry.
Guys,
And then
we're going to spend all day here. I don't want to do that. write your stuff down, and you can conclude when we go to Discord. How about that? And we'll keep it. Okay?
You
Going
gotta
on
remind.
and
You
sitting on
gotta
my
remember though that
hour.
we haven't had any flat Earth debates for like half a week.
Yeah, I
we're all
do.
kind of
I do.
eager,
You're
right?
right. I do, but we got to
But to be-
continue, right? So we can get
To
through
be
it.
fair, John, it was Brian's fault. He raised
I
a
know
really
it was
good
Brian's
point
fault.
explaining
He's got 3
It's his fault.
points. I know.
I think I'd just like to
All
add
right.
it was actually Brian's fault, just to add the up a notch.
Yeah, just chill out, guys. I knew this was going to be good. I knew a lot of people would have some their inputs, but we'll get I promise you, I'll give you a chance. Okay, we're gonna roll.
I don't. think-
But does the objective truth exist outside of your interpretation? Yes,
of course
or
it does.
no? Okay,
Yes.
so that means if we're not there to experience it, if we're not there to subjectively interpret it, that doesn't actually change what happens. It objectively happens.
is
What
true.
happens is an objective truth.
That is true.
That's my whole point. Now, there are objective truths, but it seems conveniently enough when it comes to the most important detail of our lives, the very nature of where we live, there's not one empirical proof of even the possibility of the core claims of the model. And I think it's very intellectually dishonest to pretend that it's just unfounded and stupidity to expect that.
That's just your opinion, though, isn't it? Because as we've said, as we've realised, I hope, proof is something that is actually a matter of opinion. Again, this is
Proof is matter of opinion, people. What a bozo.
why we have a jury and a court, and they don't always agree.
Here we go again, comparing scientific proof, scientific evidence, experimental proof with a secular jury in a courtroom? Are you insane? Unbelievable. We'll continue.
Agree.
No, we just talked about the proof isn't the matter of opinion. You can have an opinion on the proof, but that doesn't change the proof itself. You just now agreed to that, Jim.
No, I
now
didn't.
you're double speaking
Well,
per
you agree.
usual.
But you agree in your statement about it that you think I agreed to. You said we subjectively experience these things, and
I said no. I said that's different than what happens, though, right?
I agree there is an objective truth, an objective reality, but everyone only ever has a subjective experience of it.
Okay, but what is the objective?
So there's no way you can get to objective proof. Right, Numpty? Unbelievable.
Reality and proof of
proof beyond a reasonable doubt. So they make way for that.
Right, and
I
that's
wanted to
true,
jump in like
and
10
that's
minutes
true
ago.
of the boiling temperature of water. I think it's proven beyond a reasonable doubt that it boils at 100 degrees centigrade. But
yeah, it's proven. It's proven.
But well, it's proven to you and it's proven to me, but it's not proven.
So it's proven to you and it's proven to me, but it's not proven. The height of dipshittery has been reached. Unfriggin' thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Let's continue.
Your experience of it.
But the boiling.
It skipped. Sorry. Let me get back there. Here we go.
My whole point. Now, there are objective truths, but it seems conveniently enough when it comes to the most important detail of our lives, the very nature of where we live, there's not one empirical proof of even the possibility of the core claims of the model. And I think it's very intellectually dishonest to pretend that it's just unfounded and stupidity to expect that.
That's just your opinion, though, isn't it? Because as we've said, as we've realised, I hope, proof is something that is actually a matter of opinion. Again, this is why we have a jury and a court, and they don't always agree.
No, we just talked about the proof isn't the matter of opinion. You can have an opinion on the proof, but that doesn't change the proof itself. You just now agreed to that, Jim.
No,
now you're double speaking per usual.
But you agreed in your statement about it that you think I agreed to. You said we subjectively experience these things. And
I said no. I said that's different than what happens, though, right?
I agree there is an objective truth, an objective reality, but everyone only ever has a subjective experience of it.
Okay, but what is the objective reality and proof of
proof beyond a reasonable doubt? So they make way for that.
Right,
I
and
wanted to jump in like 10 minutes
true
ago.
of the boiling temperature of water. I think it's proven beyond a reasonable doubt that it boils at 100 degrees centigrade. But
yeah, it's proven. It's proven.
But well, it's proven to you and it's proven to me, but it's not proven.
No, it's proven until you offer a viable alternative option.
Where is the list of things that are proven?
In order to, you're gonna have to offer an additional postulation or option to challenge whether or not it is a truth, Jim.
Well, we can simply experimentally.
Yo, can I jump in? I've been waiting 5 minutes. I'm next after Jim.
I've just said it does happen, and I've said it's proven to me, and it's proven to you. But it's not, you can't say it's objective proof. And if you can, show me the list of things that are objectively proven.
Not a problem. Right here, objectively proven. Water boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit, 100 degrees Celsius at sea level, 1 atmosphere of pressure, 101 kilopascals, or 4.7 psi. Number 2, combustion is a result of oxidation reactions. Number 3, information is only caused by intelligent agency. Number 4, the lack of insulin with type 1 diabetes patients results in diabetic ketoacidosis. Number 5, the lack of vitamin C intakes in humans results in scurvy. Number 6, knowledge or the existence of the witch path information collapses the wave function. Number 7, the rapid motion and collision of molecules with the walls of the container causes gas pressure. Number 8, magnetism is caused by the motion of electric charge. Number 9, the Coriolis effect is caused by 2 differing frames of reference, one rotating coordinate system non-inertial and one non-rotating coordinate system inertial. Number 10, gluconeogenesis results in the production of glucose from specific non-carbohydrate precursors. And number 11, Gamba Panda is a window-licking moron of epic proportions. I could go on for 3 friggin' months. These are absolutely true, proven, objective, inviolable, never to be falsified. Unfrigging believable. Let's finish this up.
So you think that objectivity is dependent upon the interpretation of the viewer?
Of course not.
Independent of
I'm saying everyone only ever has a subjective experience, don't they?
Yeah, but I already said that, Jim. I already said that, though.
Can I jump in, guys? You guys are having 2 separate
No, I've been
conversations.
waiting for 5 minutes to jump in, bro.
Hold up. You're talking about subjective experiences, but that stemmed out of having objective evidence, and from that formulating subjective, whether it meets the subjective proof.
What's objective evidence? Who said that? Nobody mentioned objective evidence.
Well, you're agreeing that the water is actually on the stove or whatever, on the burner, and it's actually heating up and it's actually boiling, objectively, right?
No, not objective. How can I say objectively? How can I say that? How do I know?
Oh, you can't because you claim a model that can't be proven, so you have to stick with little fairy tale subjective nonsense.
How do I know I'm not hallucinating the water boiling on the stove?
So, Gamma Panda, to top it all off, how do I know I'm not hallucinating the water boiling? Well, what you do, Gamma Panda, is you call one of your gimps over to have them look at it too. It's called shared reality. And how do you know you're not hallucinating the Jesuit-sponsored spinning monkey ball? In summary, this globe-tard Gamma Panda's been out here for 5 years pontificating absolute abject nonsense. You just witnessed the pinnacle of it. He doesn't know, number 1, the difference between objective and subjective. Number 2, that proof is evidence. Number 3, what natural science or the scientific method is. Number 4, the difference between empirical and seeing something. And pontificates that objective proof, that is, facts which are captured using systematic methods, then independently examined, evaluated, verified, and confirmed, and provably true using analytical tools, doesn't exist. But subjective proofs, which are not matters of fact and are analyzed on the basis of personal beliefs, opinions, perspectives, and feelings, etc., that cannot be independently examined, evaluated, or verified, and cannot be proved, are all we got. I present this to you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Questions, comments before we head to Discord?
Brain in the jar is the last stand.
Oh, you beat me.
Oh my
Sorry,
God,
Nate.
this guy is now provably certifiable. I have some doubt though about that last scientific experiment. I think that's more like a psychological experiment, Jam Panda, because he's man-made. But
Now in that he just sent it into philosophy, and
Yeah.
the "am I just hallucinating" is essentially a brain in a jar defense.
yep, it's solipsism again, and it brings him so much credit that he has to ask us whether he is hallucinating or not. You know, he should know whether he is taking psychotropic drugs. You know, we can't see that because we're not in his room.
It's worse than that. He's not saying that. He's saying that, or all of us, that you can't prove it. That's the ultimate bit, isn't it? It's past the point of boiling water, where previously you could reduce his solipsism to say, well, there you go. What he's actually saying now is this is all just I am just a brain in a jar and I'm not experiencing anything. Disprove me so that I win the argument. That's what he's asking you to now disprove, that your experiences are real, whether they're, and you can't go past that point. That's why I think Nathan spotted it. I kind of sighed at that point. Oh, really? You've reduced it to that. Do you know what I mean? So that you can try and win the argument, which you can't get past trying to disprove whether we're all brains in jars. It's ultimate, you know what I mean? But it's pathetic that you reduce your argument to that.
But the consistency of his argument then follows, right? We could all be just hallucinating, therefore everything's a subjective experience. But collectively, all of the different brains in the jars agree that what we see as brains in the jars is objective truth. So therefore, if you deny what we all agree as consensus brains in jars, you're a science denier.
Right.
All right, guys, listen, let's wrap this up on Skype. I hope some of you guys wrote some things down. We can go back over it again. Let's head on over to Discord, shall we? I'll end the call.
Okay, fine.
See you over there, guys.
Conversation going without dead air.
I'll take care of it. I'm still with you guys. I'll get you through. Let's head on over there, man. Radio, just get rid of that ball and chain Skype. Good Lord, I can't. All right, radio check, Adam. Radio check.
Yo.
That's the main thing.
We
and
got
hopefully
you.
We're still on air. So if you're watching this live, you can actually join this discussion. So there's a link in the info box to Betty's server, which is called Flat Earth Debate, Science versus Pseudoscience. That's the name of the server. Feel free to join if you had any discussions. If you disagreed with any of the assessments we made of Gimp Panda, then feel free to express those now. Click the link, join the room, and hopefully we'll get conversation flowing as much as it was on Skype in the meantime. So hello, welcome back, Brian. Welcome back, Chocolate. Welcome back, QE. And we've got our first guest, which is Sunny something or other. So did you have any questions or comments, Sunny? Right, I'm mute. Oh, wonderful. So glad we moved to Discord for this.
I am.
So yeah, if you do want to join and you're in the audience, feel free to do so. We will answer any questions or comments or take any objections. Please don't swear. In the meantime, smash the super chat to support Quantum Erasers channel. Or if you're watching this on the re-up, support my channel. Great filler, QE.
Say again?
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting presentation. It's just a reminder at how far they go.
Yeah, we heard you. It's got to be painful, right, Arwin?
Well, it's like ew. Like that's like, oh my god, how far do these guys go? You know, and they're still doing it. I do remember like people like P. Mars did that sort of solipsistic total reversal nonsense too. You know, even tried to troll with that, less serious. But Gem Panda seems to be really just drowning in it, in that nonsense. He is really, really delusional. I think he's properly delusional.
Yeah, that's the problem. If you're going to come to this subject and oppose it, all that faces you is cognitive pain. That's all you get for opposing the subject. You either come, accept it, and realize that, yeah, unfortunately, you're going to face the normies that are going to ridicule you for realizing that reality is flat rather than a sphere-shaped model that they've reified. Well, that's not so good if you've come here and you still want to be on the ball. If you're Cypher from the Matrix and you're really wishing you hadn't taken the blue pill, unfortunately, you're here, you're discussing it, you're hearing all of this, and all you can do is double speak around you're having no empirical evidence, that would be science, for any of your claims. And then telling us that science doesn't prove anything, while you simultaneously tell us that observations are empirical, and they prove your globe. Like, this is a one-way street that's going to lead to a lot of cognitive pain for a lot of the people who find themselves amongst us. Not one of us, just amongst us. Well, I don't care. Jem's pain amuses me greatly. Call me sadistic. But it's like, no, I've been around these people for a long time. And I'm sitting pretty. I give very little thought to, other than my YouTubing, to the subject matter itself, because it doesn't leave a bitter taste in my mouth. Our society in general might do, but I try and pay that as little attention as possible. Oh, we got a new guest. Hello, Steve. Sorry, Alwyn, go ahead.
I just want to say that I do understand why you are like this, since you too and me too have been in the field for so long. Because at first, when you realize that these people are delusional, when you first get to know them, you might pity them. But then when you just have to endure them for years and years and years, then you no longer pity them and you're actually amused by, the shittiness of their life. Because they are actually a burden. It's not just, oh, poor boy. No, this is a guy that basically goes out and harasses other people on the internet. Nonsense. He has done that a lot.
I thought tonight was interesting, Arwen. We all kind of worded it different, me, you, Nathan, Chocolate, yeah, but summary, the analysis of what was going off and the way we were being tempted to be blagged to was instantly obvious, all of this, even to the point of the analogies where we're talking about brain in a jar, do you know what I mean, that they're trying to use to convince their arguments. It has become very, very obvious, and tonight was a good example, I think, that their tactics and ploys are very readable by us now and quite apparent.
They've had to go back on the very arguments they used to use, right? So this whole science doesn't prove things was very funny to me when Rumpus came on the show, because he said it. Science doesn't prove things. And I was like, wait a minute, but you used to come on here all the time, right? And say the body of science proves everything, right? Body of science proves R, body of science proves gas pressure. I mean, shout out to you. You has a video on his channel with Rumpus saying it. For like a minute, just saying the body of science proves this, body of science proves that. And when he said that, I was like, wait a minute, but Rumpus, you used to come here and say that all the time. I mean, what are you telling us, that you didn't know what you were saying? I mean, what's going on? And he said, and he had to lie about it. He said, no, I didn't use the word prove. And then that's when Nathan called him out there, like, wait, you used to come here and say you proves all the time. So their literal the whole argument has had to change literally over the past few years. And I like pointing it out because I know there are probably a lot of people new to this who haven't been here for years and don't know about that, who are just hearing them say the science doesn't prove things. But they used to call us science deniers, right? That used to be their whole shtick, that we deny all the science for the globe. Well, that's dead.
I remember
in 2020. That's gone now by their own terminology. Look, Jim Panda is saying there's no such thing as objective truth. Was he saying that 5 years ago when we were all crazy for thinking we live on a flat stationary Earth? No.
And I guess
He
they
alluded
just
to it,
hope
Chocolate,
that it all
as
gets erased
Nathan's.
or something.
Oh,
One of us, just one of us. Maybe Arwin go first, then Adam.
Yeah. All
Right.
right.
Yeah, just wanted to say that I guess they're hoping that like their previous statements is just all going to be bypassed and forgotten or even erased because that's how they're acting. Like, no, we never said that. And they're really counting on that. They're resting on like, no, it might have literally been said, but we no longer mean that. So we're going to act like that doesn't exist anymore. And that's okay. That's normal. We're allowed to do that. We have the rankings, the virtual rankings in their minds. That's what I think it
Adam,
is.
and then we've got a couple of guests that I'm going to hopefully get a few words out of. Ask will go
Well,
first, but Adam, feel free.
Yeah, mine would just support what you said early on in terms of they used to come here, and I think probably in a more evangelical way they would say the body of science proves it's a ball. Yeah, they would actually say. I remember Nathan used to take the mick all the time, hence the faith in our jibes and all you trust. They used to come here and state that science proved it was a ball. That was their shtick back in the day. And for them now, like I say, reverting to this Scientism chocolate, it's those who have been around about it. It's funny just to listen to, isn't it? It's pleasurable to every time they revert to that. We know what you used to say, where you used to go, how you used to fib.
We were there.
Yeah.
You said it
So
to
were
us.
Yeah. So were they, though? That's where the cognitive pain comes in, because they know they've said it. And that was an example of that in the presentation that QE just did. Again, big props to Witsit. As much as we say, oh, it's easy for us to spot these things, not so easy when you've got a fundy talking through you and you've got to summarize things in one breath. And we'll come to you first. Ask me anything? Ask something. Ask Dad anything.
Ask Dad anything, yeah.
Go ahead, ask Dad.
Gentlemen, awesome show as usual. I just wanted to comment on the fact that this, proves that we live in a post-truth society. I mean, the acolytes of Gem Panda in the background agreed. They didn't stop him. They didn't. This is the same conversation we have with most Globers, right? Where just because someone says so, it doesn't matter if it's empirical. It doesn't matter if it's objective. It doesn't matter if it's true. Just because someone says so and it fits my personal fundamentalist belief is good enough for me. And then we have to argue with their pain, I guess. So anyway, great show. Appreciate it. Mind-blowing. Good job, Witsit. Thanks, fellas.
I totally agree. Good job, Witsit, for being able to cope with that in the moment. But yeah, absolutely. That's what it's descended to. Next, we've got Bet something. I can't see when I've got your page open to take you off mute. Bet. Let's have a look. Bet that globe ain't something. Feel free.
Oh, I'm just listening. You can go on.
Fair enough. Pleasure to have you nonetheless. Thank you for actually saying something. Very much appreciated. Half the time you just sat in audio dead air. I think that's it. Unless we've got Sonny something or other. Did you want to add something, Sonny? You back at your mic?
Yeah, sorry I was late. It's good to know we have a representative. I wanted to say, kudos to Witsit, QE, all of you guys. But it's good to know we have a representative that we can send Globers to tell them that there is no such thing as objective truth of the globe. So we'll send them to Gambit Pandas.
Indeed. And it's very telling. The hallucination thing is extremely telling, because that's what this boils down to. Be on a globe, you've got to be in your imagination land, because that's all it is. It's a reification.
And Proofsyville, man, that's got to go wild on memes, man.
That's gonna go viral.
Hoodies with going, hop on board, all aboard to Proofsyville.
It's jump on board the science bus to Proofsyville. Oh no, we've been hijacked. No stops at empiricism or scientific method are going to be happening today.
Literally, Nathan, a hijacked red double-decker London bus that's been hijacked, and now we're taking that thing to Proofsyville.
Yeah, I give all credit to Arwin, even though it was Adam's idea.
I like that.
That's ridiculous, Matt. Hey, Nathan, Brian did have 3 points that he wanted to go through, but I stopped him at the first one. Do we want to let him go for it?
Absolutely not. How dare you even ask?
Absolutely
no, Brian,
not.
Of course. Brian, sorry, I forgot all about it. Good job, QE's hosting the show, eh?
Brian's gone.
He's gone. And by the way, what I said to Pete Shea about being Irish, that was just lazy racism.
Oh, just one thing, right? Did anyone listen to Arwin's show today?
Hey, Brian's there.
Brian's back.
Brian being back would be a good thing, actually, on this. On Arwin's show today, Pete Shea came up, and maybe Arwin, is there a chance you could redo that quote with the accent again, and then see if Brian thinks it's authentic? It was a highlight of my afternoon, that, pal.
What? You need to talk about Aristarchus? It's not that difficult. It's all just in the clouds. You gotta look in the clouds. Aristarchus is in everything. It's the beginning of all. Sorry.
Brilliant.
Is it good? I don't know. I haven't heard him actually talk in a while.
Yeah, you did it in a rant and just carried on, and I was just rolling on it, mate. It was just like,
as much as I want to drag out this extremely over racism against the Irish, Brian is actually.
No, it was against the Arwin's crap Dutch Irish accent. It's got nothing to do with. It could have been a Dutch Zimbabwean accent interpretation. It was just highly amusing.
Adam,
Sorry.
I hate the Irish and the Welsh and the French and the Spanish and the Italians just as much as you do. But let's move on.
I beg you, I'll take all of that back apart from the French.
Well, there's somebody Indian in the chat right now asking if I could please do my Indian accent. So,
oh, look, Brian's waiting. We do actually want to hear what he's got to say.
Sorry.
I want to hear Arwin's Indian accent more.
No, come on, Brian. Come on, Brian.
I'm in the supermarket, so I'll probably make too much noise if I'm talking.
Whoa. That's the scratchiest mic I've ever heard.
Your Indian accent then, Arwin, after all that. That's shocking.
Oh, come on now. Don't make me do this. It's so embarrassing.
Not too bad.
Static robot.
I'd do a Chinese accent, but it would just be considered racy racism.
Fucking.
Jimmy Carr joke. Shout out to Jimmy Carr. You guessed it, racism. Crazy racism. Yeah.
Supermarket, so there's too much noise. Sorry, lad.
Yeah, get us a few cans while you're there. No, we're not going to get
it sounds like an old signal coming from halfway the world or something over an
That's
AM radio.
Or something. Exactly. Yeah.
Project Bluebeam. Gone.
Right, QE, we've had limited guest participation on account of the fact that we started most of this call on Skype, so I don't think we're going to get anything else. And Brian's is grocery shopping, and this sounds like an Edison tube.
Yeah, we have plenty of time here. I'm not in any big hurry, and the link is in the description box. This is one of your high pseudoscience priests. He's been out here for like at least 5 years, probably even longer. And I'm shocked that I'm not shocked that he won't come in here. I got that part. But no one's going to defend him. No one's going to uphold his honor. Really? That's pretty funny.
Yeah, we don't got any greasy lawyers out there. Come and tell us. I mean, make a decision to tell us which one is it? Is observation empirical, or is there no such thing as an objective truth? Which one do we go with?
This is why chocolate is so ace. That was just the most concise summary of the show so far. Well done.
Thank you.
on a side note, by the way, QE, I can't believe you actually found a dog bone clock. A real picture. Just everything exists.
Yeah, hey Nathan, if no one's going to come in here, man, then we could go just do final thoughts, channel shout outs for everyone, and then take us home, sir.
Fair enough. We'll get on the line individually, alphabetically. Arwin.
Oh, yes. I don't know. I'm kind of enthralled by that dog bone clock. Like, what? Really? But yeah, it was a good show. It was nice to get together again with everybody. Good to talk to you again live and doing a show. And yeah, Jim Panda, wow, I haven't heard of him in a long time, but this is just like, now I remember why I don't typically like to. Also because he really gets like on this high horse and starts to talk all high and mighty in a very arrogant way when he doesn't really have any strong position. No, he starts to get very arrogant very early on. And it's just really annoying to sit through that. So, but yeah, it was good to get that summary. And Witsit totally crushed it. Like, ever since Witsit basically popped into my attention, I've only gathered more and more respect for him. And he really knows how to keep his cool. You know, that's the most impressive thing. He really knows how to keep his cool. So yeah, keep on going, bro.
That's ARWIJN. He has a daily show from midday Amsterdam time.
Yeah, I forgot that too.
That's the point in this bit, Arwin. The point of this bit is to plug your show.
Right, I forgot. Yeah, my channel, ARWIGN, Flat Earth Early Bird show, 1 p.m. Amsterdam time every day, basically up until the Flat Earth debates, but also including live in weekends. And I interact with my chat a lot, so I'd appreciate it if you're interested, if you would try to see if you could visit my chat when it's live, because I have conversations and answer questions live on the spot. Yeah, I like a challenge, you know, as long as it's serious concerning the questions. So I really appreciate live presence. And yeah, I hope to see you there.
Good stuff. What else we got? We've got Brian's Logic. Can you do your Edison Tube plug for anything you like? Or maybe not. Moving on. Chocolate saying.
Yeah, it was a good presentation. Gem Panda, I don't know what to say to you, man. You're just, I don't know, apparently out of your mind a little bit. And does it surprise me that none of your ball, friends will come here and defend your honor? Because you just make ridiculous statements, man. No such thing as objective truth. I mean, you're a little crazy. So, yeah, good shit to Witsit for dealing with you. And shout out to him. Shout out to Flat Earth Debates and 24/7 Flat Earth Discord. Shout out to QE. Thanks again, man.
Yeah, to Meekin.
Yeah. Interesting show. I think, Gem Panda side, any direct criticism, he's symptomatic of where they're at. Hopefully he's kind of demonstrated tonight that just what levels, depth they're prepared to sink to try and, I think, as we highlighted, to maintain their own cognitive diss in all of this. So good show, and I think, say, outside of any personal issues, a really good highlighting of what it's been done to. And final thing, I think we've all said it. We've all been in debates. We're all quite good at this, but I think all of us recognise that was because your heart rate does get going, especially when you're faced against such annoying stuff like Witsit was. So just another shout out to him, because to pick them up so quickly, respect. Other than that, you can see me obviously on Ballbusters, and I'm frequently appearing on, thanks to Corona, really, in terms of spare time, frequently appearing on the Flat Earth debate. Other than that, who knows where you'll see me? But yeah, cheers, guys.
And I'll do a plug for me as well. So Be Here or Be Sphere on Nathan Oakley 1982. Go on, Brian. Go on. Go.
This is about that. I wasn't expecting the show to end so soon. I went to the supermarket. Great show. Really, really good. It really shows up just how bad things are with the ball. What I'd say about it is that I don't see what the point of them using consensus is against us. We're flat earthers. If we cared about consensus, we wouldn't be flat earthers. You know, it's a bad direction. Other than that, great show. Really enjoyed it. Sorry I couldn't join in more.
It's a pleasure. We just about managed to make that out. Exactly. If we were into the consensus view, we wouldn't be flat earthers because we'd be deeply concerned about us not conforming with consensus. Yet we're not. We're talking about science, and they're claiming that their empiricism is to be found with their observations. Yet we could be brains in a jar. It's all subjective based on our experience only. Anyway, I'm going to shout out my own show because there's 107 people watching. Wowee! So Be Here or Be Sphere on Nathan Oakley 1980 for brand new Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show, which is going out right now. So I've spammed the live stream chat with a link. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the Ballbusters panel for making today's interactive show and panel part of the show possible. There was, of course, some live interaction from members of the general public as well. So a massive shout out to all of them. QE, thank you very much for your presentation. It's been awesome. Hopefully you'll also send people to my channel just to reiterate the fact that I've got a show running right now. But thank you very much for having me. You've been an epic host as ever. Awesome presentation. And I'm going to say it one last time, a massive shout out to Wits It Gets It, because that was an epic performance, right on track in every respect. My hat is off to you. Thanks again, QE. I've been Nathan Oakley. We'll see you all in the next video.